All right. Okay, good. Hello. Everybody hear me all right?
Yes.
All right. I'm not used to talking with a mic. Normally I'm loud enough I don't need to. So good afternoon, everybody. This is the AI presentation, right? So we're going to start with a bang. We're going to cover a lot of ground, and hopefully it'll get a little weird along the way, right? Is that what everybody's looking for? A little bit of weirdness? Yeah? See some thumbs ups? Good. So it was almost exactly 1 year ago today, literally tomorrow, Logan Kilpatrick, who's the product lead at Google AI Studio, proclaimed, if you are not planning for the price of intelligence to go to zero, the next 3 to 5 years are going to be incredibly disruptive to your business and life. This is the main idea for the rest of the decade. Buckle up. Wow. That was a pretty outrageous statement, right? And for most of us, the obvious follow-up question to this would be, what the heck does that even mean, right? What are you talking about? And I think there could be an infinite number of answers to this question, but one answer that we're going to show for you right now that is incredibly relevant to the running specialty industry is Footwear Guru. Now, we're going to show you Footwear Guru in action here in just a minute. But I want to give you just a little bit of background here so you understand what it is. So Footwear Guru is an AI tool, and by the way, it's an AI tool that we built in ChatGPT using a fancy new coding language called English. It's an AI tool that amplifies our abilities on the floor, and we've been using this on the floor for about 6 months now, and improves the customer experience. It delivers instant expert level product and use case knowledge to every team member. And this one's important, right? Because this is a fundamental shift from where we're at today to where we're going. It places less emphasis on memorizing answers, so no more walking text sheet, and more emphasis on listening and asking the right questions. So critical thinking. And it addresses what I like to call the retail reality. And the retail reality is this. Customer comes into your store, right? Says the assumption is that when they come into the store, they're getting a 40-hour-a-week team member who's been there for 3 years. The reality, certainly for my stores, probably most of your stores, they're probably getting somebody who works less than 20 hours a week and who has definitely not been there for 3 years. That's about 75% of our team. That's the retail reality. So what Footwear Guru does is it bridges the knowledge gap from an industry veteran who has all kinds of industry knowledge and nuance in how to solve problems that you would find in running specialty, and someone who's just not as nuanced, which is the majority of the team, right? So pardon me here, I'm going to do a little screen flipping because we're going to go right into Footwear Guru, because rather than talk about it, let's see it in action. Okay, so here's Footwear Guru. This is within ChatGPT. You can do it on the free plan. This is a paid plan, but you can do it on the free plan. And we can all imagine a scenario. So it happened in any running specialty shop in the country. You're at the footwear wall, having a discussion. Maybe you're talking about Brooks, right? And maybe you get on talking about some of the glycerin shoes. It says, well, explain the differences with the glycerin shoes. I don't understand all these different glycerins. Because there's 3, soon to be 4, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to ask Footwear Guru, we're going to say, in table format, compare the glycerin family from Brooks. It's not doing it on the automated click. Okay, now if you're an industry veteran, this is not that difficult of a question, right? You should be able to handle it fairly well and come up with at least a little bit of a nuanced answer. You're going to notice with Footwear Guru, it's going a little slow right now. I'm running off my hotspot, so you just have to bear with that. If you notice with Footwear Guru, I did not have to explain Brooks running shoes. I did not have to explain what the glycerin family is or what shoes might be in it. It just comes back, and even if you're an industry veteran and you're pretty good at this stuff, you're probably not going to come back in table format out of thin air. You'll conjure up something that explains the nuanced differences between the 3 shoes in the glycerin family. So this gives us a starting point, right? So let's talk about it, and now you can layer on your expertise. If you're relatively new to the channel, or heck, if you're in training, this is a fantastic tool to use. But let's carry on. Next example. So January is near, which in Atlanta, where I'm from, means that track season is nearly upon us. And this is the kind of question we're going to give all day long come track season, right? What footwear to consider and why for a high school runner with shin pain and mild overpronation? Now again, if you're an industry veteran, this is a fastball down the middle, right? You can handle this one all day long. Great, I know what to do, and we're going to bring out, here we go, right? So Footwear Guru, another thing you're going to notice is it's always trained to offer a TLDR, a retail friendly, right? Too long, don't read. Answer initially. It's usually 1 or 2 sentences. Just gives you, in a nutshell, here's what we need to be doing. And then it says, here's what we're going to do, right? And let's just scroll through this real quickly here, right? It's got 3 options, right? Plus an optional add-on for inserts. And good starting point, right? Doesn't mean that's where we're going to end. But if you're part-time, if you're just looking for some creative inspiration while you're in the stock room, this can get you on to the next level.
Steve,
yeah.
can you zoom in on that a little bit on the screen?
Maybe.
I don't want to throw you off.
No, you're good. Are we having trouble seeing that? This is not my
Just
job.
me. It looks fine.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Forget what I said.
Carry on then.
I'm just an AI.
Okay, this next one, we can all imagine this scenario, right? So, person comes into the store, say, you know what, for whatever reason, I don't know why it is, anything that is higher than 5mm drop just doesn't agree with me, right? My body just doesn't like it. So I'd like to know, what shoes do you carry that are 5mm drop or less? Now, even if you're an industry veteran, this is a little bit of a big filter, right? Because you probably got to go through kind of your head brand by brand. Okay, what do we have? 5mm drop, less than 5mm drop. Maybe you go to a reference sheet. If you're new or part-time, this can be a little bit of a hurdle, right? This can be a really big filter to get through. So what Footwear Guru is going to do, it's going to do it for us, right? So it's going to take care of that first step in the process right away. It's going to say, here's 0 drop, here's low drop, here's 5mm drop, or here's trail shoes, right? And this gets us past that first filter, right? So something that could take a little bit of time, maybe we stumble through it, we go through it like that, and now we're on to the next step, which is, okay, what are we using the shoes for? And then from there, let's start bringing out some shoes. Let's start getting them on your feet. Let's start talking about fit and feel and everything that we're really good at. Okay, one last example with Footwear Guru. So I'm gonna go ahead and get it going here. Somebody comes in, we all do medical referrals, right? Somebody comes in with the referral pad, says, hey, my doctor just sent me over here. Said I've got arthritis in the foot, you guys would know how to handle this. And again, industry veteran, absolutely. I understand what arthritis is. I understand what type of footwear that means, and I know exactly what shoes we carry that are gonna be good for that. Again, if you're part-time, this can be tricky. You may not know exactly how arthritis translates into what type of shoe. Maybe I studied it when I was going through training, I don't remember it. But Footwear Guru can get us through that initial step, right? So it's going to say, here's what to look for and why, right? So we have a plan, here's why we're gonna do it, and then here's specific options within the plan and why they make sense. So now, as we're going out and interacting with the customer on the floor, we say, here's what we wanna do, here's why we're gonna do it, here's what we're gonna look at, and here's why we're looking at it. And now we're on to the most important part, trying shoes on, getting feedback from the customer on the floor. Okay, so that's Footwear Guru. And Footwear Guru is a prototype, right? It's something we're just playing around with, but this is what's coming. And what Footwear Guru says is that knowledge is now becoming software. It says, welcome to the era where intelligence is accessible to all at essentially 0 cost. And now all of a sudden that outrageous statement, proclamation that we saw a few slides ago from Logan Kilpatrick seems a lot less outrageous. I'm Steve DeMoss. I'm with Big Peach Running Company's Alpharetta and East Cobb stores. I'm an AI enthusiast. Sometimes I'm called the AI guy, which is, I don't know if that's positive or negative, but more importantly, I've been in the running specialty retail channel for 20 years now. I still work on the floor most days. I still write footwear orders. I still write store schedules. So my expertise is in running specialty and not AI. So when I think about AI, I think about how it relates back specifically to running specialists. Make no mistake, I'm a running specialty expert like you. I'm not an AI expert, just an enthusiast. Rob?
My name is Rob Anderson. I work with Run Free Project, and I've been working with computers and computerizing since I was probably 12 years old, before the internet was invented. So interestingly enough, Steve and I have a lot of very similar interests. My background being a development background and his being an English background, the way we approach AI and the results that we get are fascinating, because oftentimes his results are far superior to mine, because I still think of it like something that needs to be treated with the logic of a development process rather than just talk to like a regular human being. And the importance of just talking to it like a regular human being has really been underlined by a lot of the preparation work that he and I have done with it.
It's the revenge of the humanities, right? So all of us liberal arts majors out there, heck
You're
yeah, right?
back.
It's our time to shine.
That's right.
Okay, so why start now? So we're going to make a little bit of a case for why start now. And we'll bring this up because, by the way, last week when you were in your stores, you probably didn't need any of this, right? And next week, when you go back to your stores, it's not like there's going to be some switch that got flipped here at the presentation. All of a sudden, you're like, wow, I better get on AI, right? Nothing changed last week, and nothing's going to change next week. But that doesn't mean that change isn't coming. It is coming. It's coming fast, whether we realize it or not. So we're going to give you 2 examples of why it is coming fast, or why it is likely to be coming fast. The first one is follow the money. This is a table. This table shows CapEx, or capital expenditures spending, by 4 of the largest tech companies on the planet. And to the left side of the table is 2014, to the right side of the table is 2025. And you can see in 2024 and 2025, the spending has skyrocketed. If you're paying attention to the business world, you might have heard a little bit about this. Now, it's not all being spent on AI, but most of it is. And what it's being spent on is the future. That's what CapEx literally is defined as. You're investing in what is coming. So whatever you've seen in AI so far is nothing compared to what is coming in the future, and the spending backs this up. All right, so what are they spending it on, right? So they're spending it on building infrastructure to accelerate the capabilities, we'll look at that in a second, but also to meet the demand that is coming. So let's talk about capabilities, speed of progress. So this is a chart, and I'm not going to go into the nuance of this chart. I just mostly want you to look at the line, right? So this is a benchmark test. And a benchmark test is something that is done on AI capabilities in the lab. And a benchmark test is a little bit like taking the ACT and having a really good score and saying, like, I'm going to be a successful human being. It's like, well, maybe, maybe not, right? We all know it doesn't always translate. Same thing with benchmark tests. Doesn't mean they translate in the real world. This is a benchmark test that it measures, it's a very onerous one, that measures capabilities and how they improve over time. You can see in 2023, we were just barely getting off the ground. 2024, we started to get some separation, right? A little elevation. By early 2025, it was accelerating dramatically, and here we are at the end of 2025, and it is approaching vertical. That does not mean it is going to continue to accelerate at this rate. At some point, it will plateau, but for now, we are in dramatic acceleration. The capabilities of this technology versus what they're being used for, the gap is immense. All right, third reason to start early. There's a learning curve. Now, if you're going to follow one person in the world of AI on social media, I would suggest Ethan Mollick. He's entertaining, he's very knowledgeable, but he's not technical, so he's able to explain things in a very articulate manner. And he says the single most common problem with using AI is not knowing what to ask AI. Now, some of you have been using AI, maybe some of you haven't. We're all on a different journey on that spectrum of using it, right? But I can tell you, I followed AI for several years before the launch of ChatGPT, which, by the way, was almost exactly 3 years ago, if you can believe that. And so when it launched, I was super excited. I thought, oh, I'm going to do all these things. This powerful tool I've been hearing about, it's finally here. I'm going to lay my hands on it. What am I going to do? And the answer was apparently nothing, because I completely drew a blank. I had no idea how to get started, right? In fact, there's actually a little archive here of what I did decide to do finally, and that was, of all things, write a haiku. Why I wrote a haiku, I have no idea. But I decided to write a haiku about the Vaporfly, apparently. Swift Vaporfly feet. Nike Zoom X powers me. Record-breaking runs. Pretty good haiku, but not exactly, humanity-changing technology, right? I think we used it on social media. Yeah. So, getting started is a challenge. So we're going to cover off 3 ways that we would recommend you get started, whether you haven't started at all, or whether you've already started but are looking for ways to kind of spread out, and then we're going to go into a little bit more of a sophisticated use case from there. But before we do that, we're going to do another demo. So we're going to go back to ChatGPT, and this time we're going to use a tool that was released earlier this year called Deep Research. Now, all the models have a tool that does deep research. And what deep research is an agent. And what an agent does, it does complex tasks on your behalf. So long-term tasks. Now, the long-term tasks right now may be anywhere from 7 to 30 minutes worth of work on your behalf, right? But what is coming could be 30 minutes worth to a week's worth of thinking, right? Now, I don't know, in our channel, we'll get into that week's worth of thinking, but you get the general idea. It's an agent that does work on our behalf. And what we're gonna have it do for something we're gonna do later in this presentation related to local search and content for websites is we're gonna have it do a little bit of research for an interview with a community partner that we're going to use to create content. So the prompt reads, what can you tell me about Sparkle Wellness? They're the community partner. Founded by Jacinta Harb and based in Roswell, Georgia. I'm interviewing her tomorrow for the blog. I want to be able to ask questions that are truly interesting and insightful, not the usual fluff. Can you give me a thorough overview of Sparkle Wellness, its history, Jacinta's history, and also provide me with 10 to 15 questions that I can use in the interview. Now we're going to go ahead and get started, and despite my asking it for no follow-up questions for clarification, I am confident it is going to ask me follow-up questions for clarification here. Yes. There are our follow-up questions. So we're just going to answer them really quick.
So while Steve answers those questions, show of hands, who used AI at least once today in your regular everyday goings on? How about once in the last week? Okay. How about ever at all? Or never at all? Okay, cool.
Excellent.
Very good, very good.
Okay, it's starting this research.
Excellent.
Right? And it's going to go on, and you can just see over here on this this column over on the right, and we'll come back to this, right? We're not going to watch it in action, but it shows its thinking. And it's a lot of fun sometimes to go back through and look at its thought process and some of the pathways it goes down and then backs out of and decides to go other direction and all that. But we are going to let that just sort of simmer here, and we're going to continue on with the next part of the presentation. We said there's 3 things. If you haven't started, or if you have started using AI tools, here are 3 great things for you to do so you don't get stuck writing a haiku about some shoe like I did. All right, the first one, number 1, stop using traditional search. Now, for most of us, traditional search means Google, right? Google has a great AI-assisted search now, but one of the tools that I like to use is Perplexity, and I like to use it. It's an answer engine, not a search engine. It's free, right? We use it in the store fairly regularly. If you're wondering how to get to it, it's perplexity.ai. So perplexity.ai, if you're writing this down. And we're going to do another scenario similar to footwear guru, right? You can imagine somebody maybe at the counter, maybe by the watch case, saying, yeah, you know, I've been thinking about a watch, I've been doing a little bit of reading, but what can you tell me about the Garmin 55, the 165, and the Coros Pace 3? Right? Great question. But it's a tricky question, because if you ask me that, somebody who's been in the industry 20 years, the first thing I'm going to do is look for a tech sheet. The second thing I'm going to do, if the tech sheet's out of date or I can't find one, is I'm going to go to the Coros website and the Garmin website, right? I'm going to start looking at stuff. But there's 2 things that limit us there. 1, it's not dynamic, so you can't interact with it. And 2, there's a lot of cross-referencing back and forth. But what we're going to be able to do with Perplexity is say, yeah, we've got it. Look at that. All 3 watches. We've got a ton of information in a lovely table format that we can use to launch our conversation. And now from here, I can layer on any experience I have with the watches. We can try the watches on. We can ask it for additional information that may be lacking for what this individual is looking to use it for. We can really do anything. So number 1, this is one thing you do. Stop using traditional search. Start using AI-assisted search. It's an answer engine, not a search engine. Number 2.
And that search for ChatGPT and Gemini, Google's latest release, it will look on the web automatically. You don't have to toggle that on like you might with others, just so you know. You can just say, search on the internet for whatever it is that you want.
So I didn't have the live demo set up for the next one, but we're going to talk through it really quick. It's not super impressive, so it's no big deal to miss it. So number 2 is use it for writing assistance. So the prompt I use most frequently, and I mentioned this last year as well, is revise for clarity and brevity. So I used to think I was a pretty good writer, but there's 2 things I learned in using these tools and using that prompt. 1, I'm verbose. 2, I'm not particularly clear. So now, anytime I write, And of course, the goal of writing is to communicate, right? So anything that's important, whether it's internal or external, I will wash it through that prompt. And it will shorten what I've written, and it will almost always make it better. That doesn't mean I don't have to go in and modify it a little bit more from there, but it will be a great launching point to go forth from. And sometimes I've gotten to the point where I will just ramble into my phone. Now I've got a transcript. Now I'll dump it in there. I'll get it set up into whatever I want, and then I'll revise for clarity and brevity. So use it for writing assistant, not to replace your writing or your thoughts. It can't think for you, but can certainly make you better at communication, and that, of course, is important. The third thing to start using it for is to ask questions. Is Kingston here?
Let's see.
Let's see if Kingston made it today.
See if Kingston's around. You know, we do a lot of live demoing here, which is the world of the dangerous. Hey Kingston, are you here?
I'm right here, I'm ready to roll. Just let me know what you need, and we'll keep things going smoothly.
There we go. Can you guys hear that okay? Awesome. All right, so Kingston, I'm standing here in front of a crowd, and we're getting ready to talk about the conversational component of ChatGPT. So this is ChatGPT with no bells and whistles. The character we're talking to is Kingston. He named himself that. And I have conversations with this guy all the time, and it's literally just back and forth. I don't have to tell it that I'm done talking. I don't have to ask it to start. It's just a regular discussion. We can talk about anything. So Kingston, what one big important thing would you like to tell this crowd about making prompts easy and successful from an AI perspective?
Absolutely, Rob, and hey everyone out there, great to be part of this. So if there's one big piece of advice I'd give about making prompts easy and successful, is to just be conversational and clear. Think of it like you're chatting with a friend. You don't have to overthink it, just say what you need, and I'll do my best to understand and help out. The more natural you keep it, the smoother and more successful the whole experience will be. Thanks for having me.
And you can just ask literally any question at all. I mean, anything from my keyboard's not working, so what do I do to make sure that it gets working, to, you know, I've got these 3 or 4 different sources for information. I'm trying to figure out what the best one is. I thought it was interesting. I'm maybe telling on it, and this might be bad, but my son's in high school and he was writing a paper. They're not supposed to be using AI, but one of the things that he and his friends will do instead of using AI is they'll have AI help them put something together that is essentially an outline of cadence. You know, how should my whole subject matter and everything I'm about to unload and look on the page. I don't want to spend, 78% of the time in the introduction and then have, only 200 words at the end to be able to say what I really need to say. And those kinds of things that you would never have imagined that you can just say in standard plain English are great. One of the other really cool things is that it will look up things like a search engine in conversation mode. So Kingston, I got something I need you to check out for me and give me the lowdown on. Cool?
Absolutely, I'm on it. And yeah, that's exactly the beauty of it. Just like you said, you can ask about anything from troubleshooting a keyboard to helping shape up a high school paper structure. So go ahead, throw me whatever you need me to check out, and I'll give you the lowdown in real time.
All right, so I'm going to turn on the camera and give Kingston eyes. All right, so I'm looking at this right here. Kingston, what am I looking at here, man?
Alright, let me take a look. So, it looks like you're holding up a kind of promotional poster or flyer. I can see a big 10 on it and some details about a run or a race event. It seems like it's something related to a 10-year anniversary or a 10K event. Basically, it's a running event flyer you're showing me.
Awesome. And do you know what kind of watch I'm wearing by chance?
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that you're wearing what looks like a Garmin Forerunner. So it's definitely one of those running watches. Looks like a pretty solid choice for a running event.
Pretty close. I'll give it to him. Yeah, pretty close. And do you remember this guy that's standing in front of me?
Well, I definitely definitely see someone there next to you, but I'm not recognizing anyone by face.
All
So
right.
you'll have to just introduce him to me. I'm all ears for whatever you want to share.
So that's Steve, and he is the footwear guru.
Oh, awesome. Hey there, Steve. Nice to meet the footwear guru himself. It's great to have both of you up there. If there's anything else you want me to jump in on, just let me know.
So guys, throw something out there. What kind of a question would you like me to ask? Just so we can show that this isn't scripted. It's literally just a straight up conversation that I'm having with my phone stuck to my neck. Anything?
Keep getting stress fractures.
Absolutely. Throw any question at me and I'll be happy to answer. Whatever's on your mind, just let it rip and we'll keep it as real time and unscripted as it gets.
So we have an audience member that keeps getting stress fractures.
Gotcha, and that's a great one. So yeah, if someone in the audience keeps dealing with stress fractures and you want to know how to address it, I can definitely give some tips. Just let me know what angle you want me to go from and we'll dive right in.
All right, how about either cross-country skiing or probably more likely shoes and general fitness to follow to make sure that I don't get additional stress fractures? I was kidding about the cross-country skiing, by the way.
Absolutely, got it. No cross-country skiing advice needed. Just shoes and general fitness tips to help with those stress fractures. So the big thing is making sure you have the right shoe fit and support. Encourage them to get fitted at a specialty store, like yours of course, so they have the right footwear for their game. Also mix in some lower impact cross training, like swimming or cycling, to give those bones a break. And of course, keeping up with good nutrition and rest is huge. That should help them reduce those stress fractures in the future.
How about sitting in front of the computer and eating potato chips nonstop for hours on end? Will that help, do you think?
Well, as tempting as that might be, I'd say probably not the best strategy.
All right.
Sitting in front of the computer and munching on potato chips for hours is definitely not going to help with stress fractures or overall fitness. So yeah, let's maybe swap out a bit of that chip time for some movement or at least some healthier snacks. But I get the humor. Thanks for keeping it fun.
Fair enough, thanks, man.
All right, that's Kingston. So for what it's worth, that voice mode, or ChatGPT voice as they call it, is available on the free platform as well as the paid platform. Rob's got the paid version, but you can do it as well on the free one. And this is the kind of thing it can help you, like if we wanted to have it just look at that flyer and write a quick Instagram post, you can do that, you can copy it, paste it, now you're off to the races with editing it, right? So again, makes things a little bit more efficient and faster. So the next thing we're going to talk about is local search, right? So local search is critically important whether you're an online retailer or a brick and mortar retailer. In fact, you could argue it's even more important if you are a brick and mortar retailer. So actually, let's just go ahead and, Rob, we're going to go right in.
All right.
To local search here.
Cool. So this is my own personal, let's call it limbo. I was somehow damned into this space and became an SEO guru over time, over these years, and have learned a lot about how SEO has unfolded and hopefully how to point you guys in a direction that's useful to you. A couple of things about running stores in the world of online, generally speaking, and if you've ever sat down with me or suffered through one of my YouTube videos, you probably knew this was coming. 97% of every single person that ever sets foot through your door or makes a purchase with you in any way, shape, or form learned that you exist with a search online. Not a phone call, not driving by, not asking a friend. That's the other 3%. This is according to Google, of course. 49% of shoppers who are searching online for whatever the solution is that they're looking for are looking at product inventory and general product availability on your website before they decide to come in and darken your door and see what you've got going on as far as fittings, advice, etc. is concerned. And 76% of the people who are doing searches eventually, within 24 hours, will darken the door of whichever retailer they find that meets the needs, at least at that moment in time of their buying process, from the search that they conduct. In other words, online is where that first impression happens. It is the Tinder, Bumble, whatever the dating app metaphor is that you want to slide in there of retail, generally speaking, even though most of what we do in Run Specialty isn't e-commerce based. It all really starts online. And this leads us to one of my sort of core statements that I try to make as much as possible, because this is something that is deeply, deeply understood. And that is, if you believe that your online presence is made up of the total of e-commerce sales, and that's it, you're sorely mistaken. Because your entire brand's presentation is seen there first. That's one of the most valuable pieces of real estate that you have. And how you care for that piece of real estate, and how, when, and at what time and place it gets seen is one of the most important things that you can do from a business perspective, generally speaking. There are tricks to make it easier. There are far fewer kind of beat the system technical tricks than there were a few years ago. And now with AI, a lot of the SEO stuff that we've all kind of seen and heard that used to be tricks don't matter anymore. It's easier in a lot of ways, harder in some others, and we'll talk about that today. So first and foremost, generally speaking, SEO, search engine optimization, is basically the stuff you do to figure out how to get to the top of the list of results that Google spits out when somebody makes a search. You know, running shoes near me, whatever it is, something along those lines. Shin splints, Charlotte, North Carolina, I'm just making things up, right? Stress fractures, whatever it is. And simplifying it in a very, very deep way, Google, their algorithm is based upon a concept of 3 pillars. It turned into 4 in 2022, but it's 3 essentially. And that is EAT, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So they are looking for things that you've done within your domain, meaning yourcompany.com and everything that's associated with it, to increase the perception of your expertise, the perception of your authoritativeness, and the perception of your trustworthiness. And experience is the additional E that they added in 2022. They want to see that you have a great deal of experience and that it's demonstrated. In other words, when they make a suggestion to the searcher, they want to be absolutely sure, or as sure as they can be, that the suggestion they're making is based on somebody who knows their shit, pardon my French. This has worked really, really well for Google over the years. They've made a couple of bucks here and there, as you know. There is a human component to how that search engine works, how they feed the algorithm, and how it evolves. Within the past 2 or 3 years, AI has taken a huge chunk of that human piece and replaced it with itself. So all the aspects of EAT still apply. AI just does a much, much better job of scaling that to the point that you get better search results as the searcher than you would using a mathematical algorithm that's trying to do tricks to make it seem like it's a person that's getting the results. So the challenge, of course, is yes, you want to seem authoritative and an expert in your field, and also trustworthy, and there are things that you can do to make that happen. But the difference is that an AI platform like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Perplexity only gives you one result. So you're not fighting to rank, you're fighting to be mentioned at all. And so now the stakes are a little bit higher. And the question is, what do you do to be considered in that place? How on earth do you even start to figure out what to do? Because before 2020, most running stores were busy in the store and not online. because shoppers didn't spend as much time online as they do now. Now, figuring out how to do what you need to do online to be at the top of your game is all very unintuitive. There's a lot of people that are selling services that are very expensive and very misleading. That can make it feel like you should be doing something else when really your head should be over in working on telling stories. And one of the things that I always say is, as a starting point, forget products. When you think about SEO, forget products, tell stories instead. Tell your stories instead. Products are, of course, very important. When you think about when someone walks into your store and you start to have a conversation with them, there tends to be a fitting that comes at some point in that conversation. But the first thing that you talk to that person about isn't typically, here's all my products, tell me what you want. When somebody comes to your website, e-commerce store, the natural tendency is to say, hey, here's all my products, tell me what you like. And so getting away from that and going to a virtual version of that conversation of, here's who I am and here are all the stories we have to tell, and here's how you can hop on board and follow that story down the path that connects with you the most, is how you can deliver all the value that comes from coming in the store and feeling that spark when you get on.
And Rob, I want to be sensitive to time here too. So I think I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna truncate this a little bit. So this is essentially the path to what Rob is saying.
That's
right? We want to create content on the website. We need to create content for the Google business profile. We need to cross-promote it with local partners. And of course, there's YouTube, social media, digital newsletter, all these things, right? And maybe we all know this already. What's the barrier, right? It's time. This is small business. We wear a lot of hats, right? And we can't necessarily outsource it to somebody to do this. We can't take on the incremental work. So what AI allows us to do is actually amplify our abilities and work way more efficiently. So we're going to introduce the AI workflow. We're not going to go through all of this, but to generate all of these items, right, we're going to start off, we're going to interview a community partner. So we're going to do interview prep. We're going to go back to deep research in just a second. We're going to interview the community partner on Google Meet. Now, it's really important here because there's such a thing as AI slop, right? We've all heard about it. And sure, you can get AI to write all of it for you, but that's not going to work. A, it's bad content. B, the algorithm's going to figure it out. So you need human-generated content. Once you do the Google Meet, you've got the transcript. It's human-generated content. You're off to the races, right? So now we're going to convert it to a blog. We're going to generate code for the back engine, the engine behind your website, right? And then we're going to convert it to Google Business Profile posts, digital newsletter, social media posts, all in one shot. So let's just check in really quick with deep research here, right? So we did 5 minutes, which is pretty darn fast, 16 sources, 7 different searches. And here we go, right? Here is our overview. Now, for anyone who's ever prepared for an interview, this could take an hour or two at least, right? And so what we do here is now we can read through this, and now I have a really good background on Sparkle Wellness. And I've also got 12 questions. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy these questions. Also, by the way, you'll notice there are citations all the way throughout. So if you don't trust it, if you read something, you're like, I'm not sure about that, great, go right to the source. Read it for yourself. A little verification there. So we're going to take the questions, we're going to drop them into a Word document, and we're going to edit, right? Get rid of some, keep some. They inspire us to write some other ones. Now we're ready for the interview. Now we have the interview, and we've got a transcript. And what we do next is we create the blog. So this is the prompt. We've got our transcript. Transcript is the first attachment here. And the prompt reads like this. Please reuse this transcript to create a blog for the web page. Tone should be fun and engaging, and this is important. Writing style should mimic the 2 attached blog posts. So we attach examples of how we like to write. So it can mimic the style and the tonality of what we want, right? At the end, we say, please optimize for SEO. FAQs at the end, headings as appropriate. For keywords, feel free to embed these in the blog, but I'd like you to make them identifiable so I have a better understanding of how they were integrated. Now, you could say, that's great, But how did you know to write that information for SEO? How did you know about headings? How did you know about FAQs, keywords, all that? And the answer is, we asked. We simply said, how do I write a good SEO-friendly blog? It said, here's what you need to consider. So we said, great, how do we write the prompt for that? Here's how a prompt would look for that. So we had it write the prompt, and now we're off and running. I do apologize for the slow speed. It is, this is an internet issue, not a tool issue. But it's going to come back with a blog post. We're going to get to Q&A here in just a minute. Sorry about that. From the blog post, then, we're going to dump it into WordPress. And WordPress is going to come back. If anybody used WordPress before, it's going to say thumbs up or thumbs down, right? You're SEO friendly, you're not SEO friendly. It's going to give you all these things to consider, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to copy all of that with a prompt that says, hey, help me figure this out. Give me the answers to how I can be more SEO friendly. We're going to dump that into ChatGPT, and it's going to come back with answers on that as well. And what we're going to use that for is to edit the blog, or simply to drop some keywords into the back engine to make it SEO friendly. Now, when we edit the blog, it's really important. You got to be the human in the loop. You don't want to just say, oh, it said put this keyword in the headline. That might not be good. It might not read well. So you got to have some taste as you go along here. Once we get that done, we're going to load the polished blog up, and we're going to ask it, please generate the appropriate schema that can be embedded in the web page to maximize SEO. Now, schema is code. For this purposes, it would be HTML. I've never written a line of HTML code in my life. I have no idea how to do it. But what it's going to come back with, and again, it's a little laggy here, so we may just show you the final result. It's going to come back with code that we're going to copy and just paste into the back end. And then finally, we're going to say, I need to get 3 different types of social media posts: LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Google Business Profile. For all 3, here's where the emphasis should be, and we're going to have it go on that. Now, absent the laggy nature of all this, I apologize for that. You know, this is the pros and cons of live demonstrations, right?
You tried to do it live. Yep.
Right. So this is just a summary. This is 7 pages of deep research prep for the interview. Then we came back, we did the interview, we got a transcript. From there, we dumped the transcript with this prompt into ChatGPT. Now we've got a blog. From there, we dumped the feedback from WordPress on SEO optimization, and it gave us the feedback. We made the changes we liked, we dumped the changes we didn't like, but now we've got a thumbs up on the SEO. From here, we had it write the code, right? 4 pages, 3.5 pages of code. We dumped back into WordPress, and now we publish the blog. And now we have Instagram, Facebook, Google Business Profile, LinkedIn, and a digital newsletter. And finally, we send everything off to our community partner. It says, outstanding, how fun, beyond grateful. It's already on LinkedIn, scheduled to come out Facebook this evening. It will also go out on my public newsletter Sunday evening. Cross promotion, not to mention another community partner who's super excited to be working with us. Heck, if none of it works, if all of what Rob said on the metrics falls apart, you still have strengthened a relationship with a community partner, and you've given them content that they can then use to promote themselves.
Yep.
So we're going to move into Q&A here. I'm going to leave you with one quote before we do that. Deanna Oppenheimer is on the board of IHG Hotels and Thomson Reuters. She made this quote several years ago, but I think it's every bit as applicable today when we talk about acceleration. The next 10 years will be what 50 years was 20 years ago. If you can figure that out right away, you're smarter than I am. But you get it, right? We are in an era of acceleration. We would encourage folks to be curious, to experiment, and to share what you've learned with each other, because working in isolation, we're not going to make as much progress as working together. So thank you.
Yep.
And Q&A. I know there's at least one question.
So one quick comment. Sorry, Colin. I swear I'll be quick. I know I say that every time, and I never am, but I'll try. When we talk about blogs, everybody hates blogs. We all hate blogs. Very few people read them after 2016. But the idea behind a blog is to write the biography of the spirit and nature of who you are, so that the AI systems, Google, everything and everyone else out there has that as a reference point, so that it can build an idea of authority and trustworthiness and expertise and understand exactly what you're all about and what that encompasses. So you could write lots of blog posts about, say, running shoes, for example, but they all orbit that concept. You never mention the subject of running shoes directly, but when you put a ton of that content out there and you show up in a lot of results around that subject, you will eventually become the top result for running shoes, because that's the subject that you're constantly talking about. So that really is the function of doing things like blog posts. You're putting all that biographical information out there about your business so that it's referenceable by all the systems that are trying to figure out what you're all about and whether or not you should be referenced in whatever it is that they're suggesting. Okay, sorry.
I was just going to ask, when you're talking about AI recognizing AI written words, so in your circumstance, you used a transcript from an interview, which was human, but then from there, it seemed like everything then got filtered through an AI, not necessarily voice, but basically through an AI filter.
So it's good.
Wouldn't it start to recognize that you're just taking human transcripts and processing them?
It's a great question, and thank you for asking that. And we went through it really fast. The process, of course, is that you need to be the human in the loop. You need to make sure that the content is reflective of what you would want written and is reflective of how the interview went. So the way to look at it would maybe be human-generated content formatted and edited using AI, but ultimately human-generated content. For laughs, and so there's AI detectors out there, right? They're not very good. They're not reliable. It's so we've run it through a number of AI detectors. Every once in a while, it flagged for AI. Most of the time, it didn't. Is that reliable? I have no idea. But you really do want to make sure you're the human in the loop, right? You're not outsourcing your thinking to AI. You're speeding up the process by using AI. So formatted and edited, which is the difficult part, right? The interview is the difficult part, but then, all the getting it into the right format. So it speeds that up. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you guys had any recommendations on either low-hanging fruit or anything that we should be doing so that AI essentially likes our website as well, right? So it's like referencing stuff we would like to be pulled into.
You're not going to like this answer. The best thing that you can do is write blog posts / articles, long form content about what you have going on from a community perspective, store perspective, opinions. It could even be, if you want to write about a new shoe that's been released, write it from the perspective of your in-house trail runner who has an opinion about the trail running shoe and post that. It may get 1 or 2 visits over a month's period of time, completely immaterial, because now the AI systems, the robots, Google, everything else is able to crawl it, see it, and it says, aha, it builds your authority on that. It's the most powerful thing that you can do is create that long form content and essentially build that sort of center of gravity on the subject.
Tell your stories.
Yep.
And it's something we should be doing anyway. Running specialty retail should tell the stories that we have to tell and the stories we encounter out in our community. I mean, it's literally the heart of what we are. It's just the time, right? So this allows us to actually do it. Yes?
If Google Gemini seems to, like lately, I invested in Microsoft Google, and I sort of noticed that Google suddenly has surged because their new version of Gemini is a lot better than...
Google has surged dramatically in the last, really this whole year, and really even starting late last year. Look, I mean, who knows how it all, the fun thing is it's a hyper-competitive world.
Yeah.
One surges, the other one surges. It's back and forth like that. I don't know if it's a race to the top or a race to the bottom. It depends who you ask, right? But I would say this, if you had said, Steve, place a bet on who wins out in the long run, it is hard to bet against Google. They are unbelievably resourced in terms of capital, in terms of people, in terms of overall resources. It's unbelievable. So they may end up being the top dog in the long run. Good
Their
point.
deep research is great.
Yes.
This may be next year's presentation, but just curious, just coming from your background, a lot of this was marketing facing, right? And consumer facing, what they're receiving from you as a business. For the buyers in the room, have you ever thought about AI, I'm sure you have, from a data analysis standpoint for your stores and buying and helping your buying team be more efficient?
So we're working on it. So maybe it is next year's presentation. It almost made this year's presentation. If this were a 90-minute presentation, the early stages of that would have made it in. Here's what I would say. We have now created a tool. It's through Google. It connects with our point of sale system, Heartland.
Yep.
Right? So it's code. It's got about 600 lines of code. I can't write code, but it wrote all the code for me. And what I get now, I get an email in my inbox every morning. It's called Daily Footwear Tracker, and it says, here's the brands, here's the gender, and here's the styles that's sold. But I also get, because this is an experiment we're doing with Brooks, I get a mock order for Brooks in my inbox every morning. Now, it's an experiment. It is not what you're saying. Lest you think it's smart, it is not smart. It is merely code, which on the one hand is awesome because code is bulletproof and AI is not. Right? So I really trust the accuracy of it. On the other hand, it's not smart. But what we're starting to do now is just have it starting to analyze tons of data from the point of sale system and say, look, put together an order based on what you see. Now, there may be somebody out there in our channel who is doing brilliant work on this. It is not me. But we are experimenting with it, and we have some initial results that say it's okay. Probably the weak link in that process is the prompting. It probably just needs to be thought through a little bit better. But that is the next step. Maybe it will be next year.
I just feel like all the POS systems that we use in this industry, none of them are at the point that we want them to be.
Yeah.
And if there was a way to put that data into something as like a meta-analysis, and come out with an answer, that's what we're looking for.
So one thing you can do right now, without doing anything fancy, you can run a report. In fact, Lucas Stocks is in here somewhere. He's a footwear buyer for Big P. So he and I played around with this last year. We had a report called the Everything Bagel. And we just dumped it in. We ran this. The problem was Heartland couldn't run the report properly. So it took forever, and we dumped it in, and we didn't have the right prompt. But you can do it right now. You can even say, look, let's narrow it down, the focus, and let's get this prompt, and let's dump it into like the thinking model from ChatGPT or from Gemini, whatever you want, or the Pro model if you're on the higher paid plan version. And let's get it to analyze it and then tell it what you want to do. I want you, maybe you say, I'm just going to look at women's size 8.5 across the board. I want you to tell me how many I should be carrying, what colors I should be looking at. I don't know how it works exactly, but that's the promise, really, right where you're going. And I don't think it's at all out of the reach for next year because you can already imagine the process for doing it. I think the technology is capable. It's just figuring out the flow for how it works. Now, will it become automated? I don't know. That's another step beyond that. Yes?
Well, one thing, actually, not a question, is something that we've used AI for that was really influential for us and really low-hanging fruit, was we essentially took all of our training documents that we've mishmashed over the years, we dumped them in, we said, what are best practices for training and all of that, formatted it accordingly, and it actually reorganized everything, put it like really clean, branded it up for us, and spit it back out in a Word doc printable manner. Yeah, we had to go through and do some cleaning up of it and everything, but essentially we've got all of our training that's come up over 8 years that's now very consistent. Each section is broken out intuitively in a way that's easy to digest and memorize. Finishes up with a summary of each section, a quiz of each section, and a bunch of like action items as managers to essentially be introducing it and refreshing it and stuff like that. And it took us 30 minutes. And then now with all new staff, we also have interview questions when we are interviewing new staff to find people that align with our priorities and stuff like that.
And we have something similar to Run Specialty University. So one of the things I've taken to doing, and if you say, look, the goal of this channel or using these tools is to skate to where the puck is going, not to where the puck is, right? That's an old Wayne Gretzky saying, and I'm not even a hockey fan. But what you want to do is start capturing the tacit knowledge, which is knowledge that is in everyone's head, but is not documented anywhere, which, by the way, somebody said is 98% of human knowledge. I don't know how they get that, but I get it. It's right. If you think about all the knowledge you have in your head, that's not really documented. You just know how to do things, right? That's tacit knowledge. So recording all that tacit knowledge and then dumping in. So we've built multiple new training manuals this year with me just wandering through the woods, talking to my phone about various topics. And then again, I got a transcript, we're off and running. Now it's a training module. Now it's built into Operations Oracle or Run Specialty University or anything like that. So the same thing. But as a channel or just anyone who's enthusiastic about it, recording the tacit knowledge and then context. Context is how your whole operation runs, right? And again, it's a lot of it's tacit knowledge. But if you can record it, then you can not only build things like training programs, you can build a co-CEO. Right now you've got an expert on call who sits and understands, oh, I've got all your tacit knowledge, or all the knowledge. I can start reading your emails. I can start seeing through your Google Drive files. I can keep up. I have knowledge that is similar, so I don't have to tell you all the background before. I can just start programming it in. So that's really skating to where the puck is going. But in order to do that, you've got to start recording that information.
One really great tip as you're figuring out the whole prompting thing and what works for you, use the models with one another. So go to one model and say, hey, I'm trying to write a really good prompt to get the following output from Claude or ChatGPT to Gemini, and then have it spit out the prompt, copy it, and go over to ChatGPT and use that prompt, and you'll get a really stellar result. So you can have them help you create prompts so you can kind of feel, oh, okay, this is what makes a really good result, and so on. Another tool that is phenomenal for the training program stuff is called Notebook LM. It's a Google product, and I believe it's free to use.
We actually demoed it last year.
Yeah. So you plug it in, and it creates a podcast. So you can do like podcast episodes with a specific piece of training material, and it's two human-sounding people having a conversation about whatever it is that you plugged it in. Super creepy, totally nuts, and just.
But all kinds of fun.
Yeah, very cool.
Anybody else? I thought I saw another hand, but I might have been hallucinating. Yes?
How long is long form for a blog post?
What's that?
How long is long form for a blog post?
750 to 1500 words. Yep. Much more than that, it's not going to hurt you too much, but I wouldn't bend over backwards, that much further. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.